Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City of Tempe Housing Authority meeting. Item number one is, actually, I should say first, council meetings can be watched in real time via Cox Cable Channel 11 and at tempe.gov/tempe11. Members of the public may also attend the meeting virtually through Microsoft Teams. Item number two here is call to the audience. The Housing Authority Board welcomes public comment at this time only for items listed on this agenda. There is a 3-minute time limit per speaker. Madam Clerk, are there any comments this evening from the audience?
None for the Housing Authority meeting.
Okay, thank you so much. That means I'll move forward to item number 3, which is approval of City of Tempe Housing Authority meeting minutes for August 26, 2024 and October 1st, 2024.
Motion to approve.
I'm going to say there's a motion by Vice Mayor Garland and a second by Councilmember Adams. Please vote.
There's no voting for me, is there? Oh. Yes, aye.
And that item passes 6-0 with Board Member Keating absent. Next up, we have item 4, Housing Authority Governing Board action items. Only item we have here is item 4A, which is to adopt a resolution to approve revisions to the Tempe Housing Agency's Housing Choice Voucher Administrative Plan template and policies to incorporate the small area fair market rents and update the Mainstream and Veterans Affairs supportive housing voucher programs, terms, and extensions. Are there any comments or questions from council on this?
Move.
It's been moved by Board Member Hodge and seconded by Board Member Adams. Please vote.
Aye.
And that item passes 6-0 with Board Member Keating absent. Next up, item 5A, Housing Authority Governing Board quarterly update for the quarter ended September 30th, 2024. And I will look to Irma Hollenby-Kane for an update.
Good evening, Mayor Woods, Vice Mayor Garland, council members, Ms. Inchausti. My name is Irma Hollenby-Kane, and I'm here on behalf of the Tempe Housing Authority to give you an update as to what we've been up to for the last quarter. So our work in housing services is directly aligned with your strategic priorities and associated performance measures as demonstrated on this slide. So last year, the Tempe Housing Authority administered $13 million in housing subsidy assistance in our community. This year, we're on track to administer $14 million. Housing voucher types are broken out on the screen. All in, we have the capacity to support 1,253 households with housing assistance. The data over the next couple of slides is specific to the Tempe Housing Authority's performance and is actual data as of July of 2024. So as you know, HUD contracts with the city with a budgeted amount that we refer to as budget authority, as well as an allocation of vouchers. And we track our performance in both of these metrics. As for voucher performance, if I could have your attention to the top right of the slide, Tempe has an allocation of 1,139 housing vouchers, and of those vouchers, 1,085 are leased up in our community, and that is an improved leasing rate of 95%. So Tempe's budget authority utilization is at 123.70 or 97%. Meaning we are spending more than we are earning from HUD. And Tempe's current average per unit cost is $1,399.84. This is an increase of a per unit cost of $137 per unit since October of 23, so only a year. So let's take a closer look at the budget authority spend. Tempe's calendar 2024 estimated budget authority is $14,249,692. And as of last May and June, many housing authorities, including the Tempe Housing Authority here in Arizona, are projected to spend more than we earn from HUD, which is called shortfall. And as you can see from the blue, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't highlight anything. So our budget utilization is 123.97%. We effectively went into shortfall this month. So while we were overspending in months previous, we were burning through what we call our housing reserves. We went through the reserves, and now we're actually in shortfall in this month. And we know that this is due to the fact that our average per unit costs are high due to our current housing market conditions, as well as that the Housing Authority has maximized the number of families that we can assist on our programming. So by the way, over the last several years, HUD sets aside money in anticipation of these shortfall events all over the country. And at the end of last month, HUD notified the Tempe Housing Authority that it was successful in its application for an award for additional funding in the amount of $1.2 million to cover the shortfall. Let's talk about leasing now. The graph at the top of the slide shows how we compare nationally in our leasing. The national is on the black line on the top right, and our performance is in teal. And as you can see, we are outperforming and have been outperforming the national average. Taking your attention to the top right of the slide, during this reporting cycle, we have 1,085 vouchers that are leased up in the community. Our attrition rate is a little over 10%. And we have 11 families who have taken or elected to take their housing voucher from Tempe and take it elsewhere, go move elsewhere, which is to say that is a low number, so that when people receive a voucher here in Tempe or they move here to Tempe, they tend to stay. The graph on the bottom of the slide is a visual representation of the number of housing vouchers on the street. And I'm sorry, bottom left of the slide. This is referring to families who are out in the community searching with their housing voucher for a unit to lease up. Over the course of the last 2 years, we've had upwards of 200 people looking in our community at any one time for a unit. Right now, as of this date, because of our shortfall situation, we only have about 7 new voucher holders that are looking for a unit. And that's also to say we are not pulling from our wait list right now until we get out of this shortfall situation. This slide compares Tempe's performance with the average performance of all Arizona housing authorities. Tempe's on the left and Arizona is on the right. If I may turn your attention to the right side of the slide, like I said, we have 95% lease up. Over to the left, you see Arizona housing authorities are leasing at a rate of 90% or 90.32%. And so we're outperforming Arizona housing authority averages. We also have a 10% attrition rate that's in line and healthy with the state of Arizona. So we're doing all right. And yeah, that's pretty much all I need to say about that. And so for some additional Housing Services Division updates, I am pleased to inform you that the Tempe Housing Authority received notification from HUD that our overall Section 8 management assessment of our program is scored at 96%, which makes the Tempe Housing Authority a HUD designated high performer for a second year in a row. We've also brought on some amazing talent to Housing Services team. So Dennis, if I can get you to stand up and wave hello. Dennis Newbern, a career professional in the community development and planning arena. He's joined our Housing Services Division as a housing manager, and I look forward to being witness to his many accomplishments here in the near future. I also wanted to let you know that we do have a RFP out on the street for project-based vouchers. So most housing vouchers are tenant-based, meaning that a person is on our wait list, we pull them off the wait list, we offer them a voucher, and then they go out into the private market and find a unit on their own. There's also a thing that we can do with our voucher called project-based vouchers, and essentially that voucher is assigned to a unit in the community. So what we're asking the property management community, the developer community, is if you could use some housing vouchers in your development, please respond to this RFP, and we'll see if you're competitive. And then finally, I just wanted to park with you that the acquisition is complete for the Apache Inn, which will be our second bridge shelter here at the city of Tempe. So you're the new owner of that motel.
Excellent.
And finally, on behalf of the Tempe Coalition for Affordable Housing and as their board president, in your board materials is the Tempe Coalition's November board packet. If you have any questions for me about anything that you read, please feel free to reach out. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Board Member Hodge?
Hi, I just want to start off by saying I'm always excited to hear your presentations. You're probably one of my favorite. Don't everybody else close their ears. Um, but I have a couple questions.
Yes.
My first question is, if we didn't receive the extension from HUD, the million point something, how would we have covered that?
Councilmember Hodge, that's a great question. So when an organization is identified for risk of shortfall, they start working with us essentially on putting on the brakes, right? So very early on, we came up on their dashboard, hot flashing red light. And so months ago, they started having us stop pulling from our wait list, and just be very mindful about how we're running the program. If with that long runway, we were unsuccessful in bridging the gap, and needing HUD's further assistance, the worst case scenario was the first people into or the last people into the program would be the first ones that we would suspend their housing assistance, and that, as you can imagine, would be devastating.
Oh, wow.
Is-
Jeez. My second question is there anything that we need to do to try to extend that money so we don't have to worry about having it at the tail end with that, that panic? Is there something that HUD does? Do we have to do any kind of grants, or how do we ensure, because monthly, the rents are still gonna go up, and the amount that HUD has given us is not gonna cover it. So how do we, try to pull that together?
That is a great question, Councilmember Hodge, Councilmember. So how do I explain this? So we've been actually working on that for probably the last 2 years that I've been here, in the manner of how aggressively we've been leasing up. Because how it works with HUD and our budget authority is they base our budget authority for the next year based on how you performed the year before. And how we've performed the years before were rather conservative. So we weren't using all of our money. So we had very, very healthy HUD reserves, so money that went unspent, instead of helping people in the community. And we weren't leasing up anywhere near close to as high as we are now. And so when I had come on board, it was my game to learn how to increase our revenues by increasing how much work we're doing in the years past. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, for example, as I mentioned, when I first started this presentation, last year we administered $13 million based on solid performance of last year, but it wasn't the great performance of where we're at now. This year, we were allocated $14 million, and I anticipate next year we will be allocated maybe even another $1 million. So the more we spend, the more we earn is the name of the game with HUD.
Okay. I have one final question. And as I said, I'm excited to show how we're doing so well in Tempe. Is there any way to highlight that? Meaning that, how can we break down the demographics that we have? Like, can we break down that this is how much we're giving to our unsheltered, percentage, our domestic violence women who I know we put in HUD, how we can break down and show what the city of Tempe is actually using our vouchers on.
Councilmember Hodge, another great question, and actually, you have asked that of me before, and I have recently received that information and was debating whether or not to present it in a Housing Authority update or put it in a Friday memo, but maybe I can present it in January when I'm back.
I think we should scream it from the rooftop, so I would love to present it in January.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you. Board Member Garland?
Thank you. Irma, any idea of doing one of the other landlord events coming up at all?
As a matter of, Councilmember, Vice Mayor Garland, council members, as a matter of fact, Christopher just mentioned to me today that he is on track for planning another event in April, and we anticipate it will be just as fabulous as the last one.
It was incredible. You guys did a great job. Thank you, Christopher.
Thank you.
With a high HUD rating, will that make a difference? Will it equal more money? I know that you had just explained more money from HUD because of how we're performing, what we're doing, but does the higher HUD performing rating mean anything for us to be able to help our residents?
Well, in addition to bragging rights, it does also make us, when we apply for additional vouchers, if any come available, it does make us a great candidate for award.
Okay. And I really appreciated the attachments that you had attached to your package, the housing inventory affordability. And it's incredible to me that the median income, the MFI now is at 94,000 is the median income for Tempe. That's amazing. That's really high.
That's really high.
Yeah. All right,
A
thank you.
testament to economic development, quite frankly.
Yeah, yeah, thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you. Any other comments or questions for Irma?
No? Thank you.
Seeing none, thank you so much, appreciate it. That brings me to item number 6, which is adjournment. The next Tempe Housing Authority meeting is scheduled for January 23rd, 2025, and we are adjourned. We will start the next meeting at 6 p.m. Thank you.